No intro for this video. Gonna give a brief disclaimer at the beginning of this. This is not my normal content. I'm a gaming channel that primarily focuses on gaming. I normally save the politics and all that sort of external yapping for my live streams, but today I do have to make a video and cover this topic. If you guys haven't been on social media for the last 24 hours, I absolutely applaud you. But about around 2 to 3 p.m. yesterday for me, I was doing my normal routine, and my father came to me. He's like, "Hey, are you aware that Charlie Kirk has been shot?" And I'm like, "Stop, playing with me. Stop trolling. That's not even, something to joke about." And my dad was like, "No, he was shot at." And not even 30 seconds later, people in many group chats I'm in started sending me clips of it happening from different angles, different POVs, and I was absolutely just disgusted. My heart sank. It's really hard to explain, but as someone who's watched a ton of Charlie Kirk content over the years, I'm a massive supporter of him and how he does his things. He always believed in civil discourse, openly talking, whether it was, left, right, center, wherever you were. He has an idea, you have an idea, let's talk about it. He was one of the very few people who promoted talking, not, violence and other terrible things like leftist people on the platform or, the various garbage news outlets. He always promoted talking, which is what he was primarily known for, especially if you weren't, a close watcher of his. He was that guy who went to college campuses and talked to young people. It was, led to some wholesome interactions, led to some funny interactions, some hostile interactions, a whole, laundry list of things that occurred. But overall, Charlie was making the world a better place. He believed that if you could fix how people believed, thought, and fixed how you talked about things, people could change. And I agree with that to an extent. I think people aren't born the way they are. I don't think people pop out the womb being racist or sexist or homophobic or insert thing here. That's a learned behavior. So if you could unravel that behavior and unravel that thought process, maybe it could lead to actual change. And unfortunately, again, around 2 to 3 p.m. yesterday, he was shot. He was executed. He was assassinated. I'm just no words. No words. I was very hard to watch. And might I add, I follow a lot of content creators, whether it's, politics or whether it's, football, Wyatt's World, Rick, a lot of people who, I may or may not talk about my videos and or my streams, but that is one thing I do agree with pretty much what everybody was saying. The fact that there were thousands of videos on Twitter, literally minutes after it happened, by the way. I don't think people realize, there's children that are on that app, right? Now, don't get me wrong, right? The people in the comments are going to be like, well, if you're a parent letting your child on Twitter, that's your own fault. You're absolutely correct. But still, the fact that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who thought it was appropriate to just start mass producing this video to make money, make clicks, promote their nonsense over a guy's execution is insane to me. And if you want a little bit more on the details, I'm not going to cover everything because, these stories ever expanding, yada, yada, yada. I just felt like I needed to make this video to get everything off my chest, to get my thoughts out there. Charlie was doing a Utah event. I believe it was at Utah State or some campus, some college in Utah, in which I believe now it's been deemed a sniper or some rifle of some caliber. I believe a bolt action rifle was used to shoot him approximately 200-ish meters away. Hit him directly in the carotid artery in the throat. If you have not watched the video, I recommend not watching the video. And pretty much the moment I saw it, especially the close-up footage of it, I knew pretty much there was no surviving that. He lost a good portion of blood from upon impact. And, it's one of those things where I was optimistic that he could survive, but I didn't really have much hope. And then about an hour or so after he was shot, I believe he was officially declared dead at the age of 31. Now, Charlie Kirk has a massive fan base of diehards along with haters. He did start a company called Turning Point USA back when he was 18 years old. And in the last 12 to 13 years, this company has expanded, gotten bigger. In my opinion, he's directly impacted politics as a whole. For a large portion of younger people, and by younger I mean the ages of 18 to 35, most younger people don't really do politics, right? Most people who vote, especially for the president, are older people. Just to give you an idea here about how monumental Charlie Kirk's impact was on just society as a whole. He was one of the reasons why Trump won this past election, was because a massive turnout of younger people were voting. Charlie Kirk went to where the young people were, and he tried to change their mind with as much respect and dignity as he could. And as much as I enjoyed his videos, right, I would always have them in the background, whether I'm editing a video or doing, working or doing monotonous tasks, driving, yada, yada, yada. I always enjoyed having him in the background, listening to him talk to people, different viewpoints, yada, yada, yada. And the thing I always admired about Charlie is that he had beliefs and he stood on those. right? He knew at one point in time, you can go find the many clips that are also now trending on TikTok, of him talking about gun violence and talking about how, you know, there's a target on my back because I'm speaking the truth and people don't like the truth. And lo and behold, a psychopath would do exactly that. They could not, and by they I mean the far left. The far left could not beat his talking points. They could not beat his beliefs. They could not beat his logic with reasoning. So they killed the guy. Very poor timing to quote this. But I was just watching V for Vendetta not even 4 or 5 days ago. It's a great movie, by the way. Phenomenal movie. I believe it was made back in the early 2000s, but a great movie. And there's a quote in that film, and I'm pretty sure it's a real life quote, but I can only remember it from the film, where it's, you can kill the man, but you can't kill the idea. That, to me, perfectly represents Charlie's entire life. He was a man that believed in faith and family, in the good in people, and in talking about things. To quote Charlie again, there was I believe he was doing it in Seattle, but there was a woman who came up to him in Seattle, and she asked him point blank, why are you wasting your time doing this? Right? You're in a mostly Democratic state, and mostly blue state, dealing with mostly blue people. Why are you a Republican in this area? And Charlie was like, well, I want to talk to you guys. Right? Things don't get better, you know, magically snapping our fingers and overnight. Things just don't improve. We got to make them improve. And Charlie said a phenomenal quote where it's that once when people stop talking, people get violent. And when people get violent, innocent people get killed. And that's exactly what just happened. Charlie was executed. And that's exactly what it was. And the people who are responsible for him dying are all of the horrible content creators who were promoting the act of killing people. I'm gonna name a few of them in this video. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna start name dropping some shit in this video. This is gonna be a very spicy video, but I do not care. This is coming straight from the heart, and it's the truth. So, you know, it shall set you free, as someone once said. But beastly, people on the internet would never promote violence against someone strictly because they have a different belief than they do, right? Yeah, wrong. People like Hamas Piker or Hassan Piker or Hassanabi or Destiny or Vosh, and I can keep naming, you know, is it Dean Ambrose? Maybe that's the wrestler, but I know there's some fucking crybaby named Dean. Anyways, all these people love to villainize and patronize people for having differences of opinions, right? Back in the olden days, back in World War II, we learned what true evil was. That was the Hitler Party. That was the Nazi Party. Hitler was truly one of the evilest, if not the most evil human being to ever grace this earth. The atrocities that were done to many groups of people back in World War II is something that, to this day, people still haven't let go and or moved on from. That impact is still being felt. Calling someone a Nazi used to mean they are a terrible person. But again, like I've just mentioned, whether it's Destiny, Hamas Piker, Vosh, you know, insert liberal or far left crazy, you know, person here, they love to call everyone a Nazi because they want to paint these people in a such vile image that it makes them morally acceptable to be executed. That's the point of all of this. At the end of the day, Charlie's crime for humanity was that he talked to people. That's right. He got executed for simply speaking to people. He wasn't, you know, one of the people on Epstein Island list. You know, he wasn't on that list. He wasn't sexually assaulting kids. You know, Charlie wasn't these people that abused his wife. Charlie wasn't one of these people who, you know, killed a bunch of people. And no. Charlie's sin on this earth to these crazy people was talking. They executed someone for talking. That's insane. All of these content creators who promote this garbage on this platform, on Twitter, on Twitch, on TikTok, they're garbage people. That's what they are. They're garbage, right? Calling someone a racist used to mean something. Calling someone a Nazi used to mean something. All of these words, these hot topic, these buzzwords used to mean something. They mean nothing anymore because Charlie Kirk is a Nazi. That's right. A guy who absolutely promoted dialogue is a Nazi. When I'm sure 99% of these people who are calling him a Nazi are morbidly obese people with dyed hair with excessive facial piercings who don't know anything about history and or anything about what is a Nazi. I mean, for Christ's sakes, most of them don't even know what a woman is, but yet they know what a Nazi is. Crazy how that works. These people, horrible people. And they're going to say today and yesterday and for the next week or so, hey, we're sorry he died. No, you're not. Don't pull out the violin and start, you know, playing your sad tune. You people painted him as a monster to your audience. You treated him as a monster. And guess what? One of those sick people in your audience did what you basically promoted them to do, which is to do harm. No one should ever die for simply believing something. No one should be executed for speaking differently than you. And by the way, just in case this wasn't clear in the beginning and someone glossed over this, I'm referring to the far left and the far right here. The people who are on the right, the people who are on the left, and the people who are in the center, the normal people, we're all the ones suffering from this. The crazy people are the problem. They're what's infecting society and ruining it as a massive whole. 31 years old, and he made an empire of people who actively promoted talking out problems. Compare this to, people like Andrew Tate who, have an empire of abusing women and doing all sorts of terrible things, allegedly. So it's insane. It's insane to me that, a man as great as himself could be villainized and patronized and treated so poorly by so many. And now on Twitter, they're like, oh, I wonder why he's dead. And I haven't broke down the tweet at all, but as you can see from Destiny, which, side note, Destiny, I don't know how you have the energy to actively promote harm to other content creators when you yourself are allegedly in a court case right now dealing with CP. I'm not going to go into it, Destiny. This is not the video for you. Maybe I'll make one in the future. But there's, Tectone, there's many people you can go watch on this platform to cover the situation. But yeah, Destiny, why are you throwing stones, brother, when you live in a glass house? You have a much more important things to be dealing with right now. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, just horrible people. But hey, actively telling people to harm other people with your thoughts, with your images, with your words, that's terrible, Beastly. But you wouldn't have a news network. You wouldn't totally have a clip of a news network lying through their teeth merely an hour after a man passed away. Strictly for clicks, right? This is the next part of this video that annoys the fuck out of me. So whether you're watching all these crazy people and do their crazy nonsense, or you're watching the news, which is, MSNBC, CNN, ABC, all these other garbage news outlets, Fox News, I'll throw them in there too. All these news outlets are garbage. They're garbage. They just feed you nonsense. They will make up stories. They will make shit up just to push a narrative that may or may not be true. I'm about to show you a 14-second clip. This clip boiled my blood. This clip angered me so much. Listen to this.
Yeah, and again, I emphasize what you just emphasized. We don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. On MSNBC, a grown man stood with a microphone and power over an impressionable younger audience and or older audience, depending on which way you want to swing, saying that the shots that were fired were, and I quote, celebration shots. Like if there were fucking rednecks in the crowd just shooting, magnums in the air, yeehaw style. Again, these vile creatures are painting an image. He knows what happened. He knows what he's lying. He knows he's trying to broadly paint the image incorrectly. Now, I've been told, I can't fact check this, but I've been told that gentleman's been fired. Thank God. Do not hand that guy a microphone ever again. Or, and I believe this might have been ABC, but I'm not going to go and, rip it up out of the earth to show you. But there was another news outlet who called it a school shooting, by the way. And if you want to be technically Charlie was executed / assassinated at a school. You are correct by sheer technicality. But you know damn well that was not a school shooting. There was one shot that was fired that killed one target. There was a crowd of hundreds, if not 1,000 people there. If it was a mass shooting or a school shooting, that person could have killed several people, but he didn't. He killed one person. So, again, whether you're ABC, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, what have you, these news outlets are no better than the content creators. These people just paint images of people in the most negative way. And even when the most, this honestly, as Americans, should be the most, open shut case ever. Charlie did not deserve death. A man did not deserve to be executed strictly for talking to people. That's insane. There are so many content creators, whether you're in the political atmosphere, the gaming atmosphere, fucking sports. I just watched Pat McAfee talking about this on his show. Like, this is something that transcends whatever bubble you're in. A man was just executed for doing nothing. And as an American, especially Americans, should feel morally just disgusted at that. So Beastly, we have all of these vile news outlet that's painting normal people with the most disgusting clickbait, attention-seeking words ever to dehumanize all of these people. And their supporters, by the way. It's not just, the political people, it's their supporters, right? They're all Nazis, they're all bad people. Then you have the content creators who actively incubate and grow this, bacteria to society, just infect everything. So, whether you're watching the main news or you're watching these, idiots, it can't get any worse, right? It can't. Well, I have a very powerful 56-second clip that I'm going to play And I'm going to just show you a very nice compare and contrast in society to an event that happened a couple of years ago. And you tell me which situation deserves more respect.
What purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise? Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. 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 We will join prayer right after this, okay?
So if you don't understand the clip that's going on, I'll summarize it very quickly. Essentially, Congress and the people at the House, as you can see, these many people here, they were going to do a simple moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. They were going to give this man 60 seconds of their time in a brief glimpse of just pure silence in honor, whether you want to say they're going to pray for him in that 60 seconds or just sit there awkwardly silent, it doesn't really matter. They were going to give him 60 seconds of their time. And then you hear creatures in the back screaming no. They were losing their shit over simply giving him 60 seconds of their life. That is how truly devolved we've come as a country. Their job, which by the way is supposed to represent us as Americans, and no, that does not represent me. And I would be willing to bet that's millions of people that would not also represent them. It's not like they're asking to donate to Turning Point USA. They're not asking to, go to Charlie's GoFundMe. They're not asking, speak good about the guy. They're simply asking you to shut the fuck up for 60 seconds. Disgusting. Which then this caused me to go back on a little event that happened several years ago, the George Floyd riots, where a man, who might I add wasn't a great human, for the record, he was not a great person. He assaulted his pregnant girlfriend, which is just insane, along with actively doing and selling drugs, which is also insane. A not great person overdosed during a cop interaction. Now, was the cop interaction the best? No. Could the cops have handled that situation better? I'm sure they could. But at the end of the day, cities and society was forever changed because of a man addicted to drugs overdosing on drugs during a police interaction. This is the same Congress. Not exactly. Some retired, some moved on. You get the point. That went out, I believe, wearing African clothing. I don't want to call it a scarf. I don't know what that is around. Maybe it is a scarf, but they're wearing African symbolism and took a moment of silence and a knee for George Floyd. Charlie Kirk, a man who's never done anything even a tenth as bad as George Floyd, they spent more time honoring George Floyd than Charlie Kirk. I'm going to repeat that. They gave more energy and more time to George Floyd, a man who abused his pregnant girlfriend, which, by the way, if you're curious what abuse I'm referring to, it involved a firearm in his fist. So you can go Google it yourself. It's not a very pretty picture. Also, active drug user and dealer, which is even better. Playing bingo here. They cared more about that piece of shit than Charlie Kirk, a man who spent his entire life to devoting to his faith, his family, and actively bettering society. Disgusting. So no matter where you're looking at this, it's a failure. It's an objective failure. Society is I don't want to say gone, but it's not looking very good right now. Between the news outlets, the people on social media with massive followings, might I add, and the people who are in office of power, all of these people are just doing everything in their power to ruin society. It genuinely makes me sad. The praise "I'm proud to be an American" is losing its luster every single year. Is America perfect? No, America's not perfect. Does America do things wrong? You goddamn right. Everyone does things wrong. There's no perfect country. There's no country that does not have some skeleton in its closet. There is no flag that doesn't have a little blood on the flag. You are out of your mind. But for the most part, America is the most perfect union of a collective group of people that are on the planet, hands down. Right? We're not like the Middle East, who still actively, diddles children and sells women. Right? We don't actively have a slave trade like some of the African countries and other countries abroad. I can keep going. Our economy is much better than other countries who are a fraction of our size. Right? Is America perfect? No, we're not perfect. But to insinuate that America is just a shithole that's as bad as, you know, other country, you're out of your mind. You are out of your mind. And I would like to say that the Charlie Kirk assassination / execution was the only thing that's really tipped off the tipping point. It hasn't. Again, going back to some events that have transpired, especially in the last year, this very powerful image of Donald Trump being mere inches away from being Charlie Kirked. It's insane. There was another crazy left-wing extremist who tried to execute somebody. Again, luckily, this kid failed, but that bullet was very close to hitting the target. Now, regardless of what you do or don't think of Charlie Kirk, regardless of what you do or don't think about Donald Trump, they don't deserve to be executed on stage for simply existing. This is like insane. I don't have it in front of me, but I saw this doom scrolling Twitter, you know, recently of a picture of John Wilkes Booth executing Abraham Lincoln, and the caption read something along the lines of, when conservatives get angry, nothing happens. When Democrats get angry, people get executed. I'm like, that's pretty accurate. This is just insane. And you know, whether it's the news outlets, whether it's what have you, people are going to paint an image of, well, gun violence, right? Ban the guns. If we ban the guns like European states do, or Australia, gun violence goes away. No, I know this is going to surprise you guys, but a bad person is going to get a weapon to kill a not bad person because they don't care about the law. They don't have ration. They don't have reasoning. They don't have a higher functioning brain. Whether you ban all rifles or not, the person who executed Charlie Kirk, the person who shot at Trump, they were going to get a firearm or a bomb or a knife or a fucking crossbow or something. Evil will still do evil. Like, look at Europe right now. Europe has a ban on, I want to say they're classified as like swords, but it's like a blade that's over like 3 or 4 inches long. It's not a very big blade, but they have them banned because there's a stabbing problem in Europe. But guess what? People are still getting stabbed. Do you know why? Because you can't ban every knife in the world. People have them in their, you know, kitchens to cut, you know, food and what have you. Again, speaking with the whole gun nonsense that I'm sure every news outlet is going to, you know, peddle and push like they always do, whether it's a school shooting, whether it's what have you. Even if we banned all of the guns in magical land and we banned the guns and there was no more gun deaths and we banned bombs and we banned, you know, bow and arrows and we banned knives and we lived in a crazy utopia, are we not going to ban cars then? Because people die from vehicular accidents all the time, right? Are we going to like discontinue trains and buses because people, you know, get killed on trains and buses all the time? Like, this is just a stupid argument of, oh, something kills someone, therefore ban it. Are we going to go ban kitchen utensils? I would be willing to bet if I Googled it right now, there's an X amount of people every year who die from swallowing a fork. Are we going to ban those? Like, that's not how you fix these problems. These people are mentally, and again, this is far left and far right, but mostly far left that I'm talking about here. These people aren't mentally right in the head. So using reason and logic to deal with them is never going to work because they're not reasonable or logical people. I might butcher her name. I do apologize. I believe her name is Irina Zarutsky. I believe she's Ukrainian. I'm very bad with names. I do apologize. But just to keep, you know, the trend going with the news, with the crazy people in politics on, you know, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, yada, 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 and everywhere else. This poor woman, I'm not going to show you the video or the, you know, horrifying pictures. She was viciously assaulted by an animal, brutally murdered on I believe, a bus or train. It was some public transport. I know that. She was stabbed like 14 or 15 times and left to bleed out and just die by herself, alone. She survived a war zone in Ukraine, but couldn't survive transport in a city. And the gentleman who shanked her, viciously assaulting her, was locked up and released 14 times. This problem is not just the internet and the people on the internet and the people in power in Congress. This problem is also in the court system. You can't tell me, as a rationally functioning adult with a you know, a brain that's fully developed, a person should be released and snagged 14 times. The judge who let this go 14 times should be held liable just as much as the fucking psychopath is for killing her. This is insane. Like, the timeline I'm living in is just, it takes my breath away. That society has eroded so much from what it used to be. I am 26 years old. I am not that old. But in my childhood, back when I was 10, 12 years old, none of this shit happened at the same rate, at the same clip as things have been happening in the last 10, you know, 5, 10 years. It's just gotten so much worse. And I don't know, honestly, when it's going to get better. I really don't. Because it seems like pretty much every outlet is just getting worse. It's brainwashing more people to believe more, you know, hateful, aggressive things, which is going to lead to more violence and lead to more problems. Right? I don't want to be that person, but at some point, you know, when you have a group of people who believe they've been wrong so much and another group of people who think they've been wrong so much, and they have two different lines in the sand, that normally leads to two words. One starts with C and one starts with W, in which America's already had one of those, and a lot of people died for that. I don't want that to happen again. I really don't. I don't wish violence or harm on anyone. But you have to call a spade a spade. You can't have the fucking Pikachu meme face of like, oh my god, something bad happened to someone who I villainize and patronize on a daily basis. Someone I called Hitler was almost killed and or was. Crazy. It's like, yeah, you actively participated in that. There needs to be sweeping reform across the board from almost every facet of this country. Change needs to be invoked. And the light, the beacon that was Charlie Kirk, that was enacting change and making things better, has just been permanently snuffed. I'll say one last thing and I'll leave it here. If you have a dog, right? Let's say there was a woman that owned a pit bull, and that pit bull would be taken to a park, and that dog would bite children over and over again. What would happen to that dog? That dog would get put down. Why? Because that dog's a menace and harm to society. If a human body, if you go to the doctors and they say you got cancer, or they say you got a tumor, what's the correct course of action for most situations? That is to remove the tumor and to kill the cancer. Whether it's chemo, surgery, what have you. When there's toxic, damaging things that are in your vicinity, you have to remove them. They have to go. Whether it's a tumor, cancer, vicious animals, what have you. But for some reason, mostly the Democratic Party, they believe in letting this shit persist and get, worse over and over. And it's truly baffling to me. If people want to act like an animal, they should be treated accordingly. If you want to brutally execute someone on national television live as a political statement, as political terrorism, this is insane to me. Why are these people allowed to exist in society? Or like the gentleman who stabbed that lady 14 times. What are we doing? Asmongold has a hilariously accurate quote that if you just got rid of 2% of the population, you would fix 98% of the problems, and you're correct. Doesn't matter what race, religion, gender, ethnic background you are. If you're a menace to society, you should be removed. If you believe you should be able to execute people for speaking differently than you, you should be removed from society. Again, this video was not made for the center people, for the left people, or the right people. This video is specifically made for the far left and the far right. Now, almost everything I covered here was far left nonsense, but, there is stuff on the far right that is also bad. For all the events that have transpired in the last 24 hours, this is just a rambling, a yap session. I don't really know what to call this video, but a great man will no longer go home and see his wife and kids. His parents will never be able to celebrate another holiday with Charlie Kirk ever again. Millions and millions of young people who looked up to Charlie Kirk as a role model now essentially have to just keep moving on with their lives with the teachings they had of him. This man was a young man, 31 years old, that had nothing but a bright future ahead of him, and that was stomped out because of a psychopath who believed in executing someone rather than actually defeating him in a debate. They couldn't kill his ideas, so they settled for just killing the person, which is disgusting. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave this video a like. I'm not sure how much editing I'm going to do for this video, if any at all, so this might be an hour and a half long video. I don't know, but either way, appreciate y'all, and I'll see you in the next one.